Hey all, I saw some complaints that it's impossible to make what are called God or gamer units in base PSO2 now that Sega's removed the mission pass system on the base side. They did make it harder, but I'll show you how you can make very comparable units with a bit of extra work and either luck or lots of maceta. Before I show you how, for those who are new here, my name is Zan and I make PSO2 content here on YouTube and stream every Friday night on Twitch. Of course, there's also the obligatory like, subscribe, and comment requests that every YouTube video mentions. Anyway, how do we do this? Let's start with what this is. When Episode 6 came out, we were given the final soul augment, called Guardian Soul, which is a combination of Astral Soul, Aether Factor, Mana Reverie, and Absolute Glare. Of course, they couldn't make it easy, so they said, let's make it a 10% chance. Because of the huge risk, people would use their augment protection items, which let them not lose a gear if they failed to augment. Of course, I've never gotten bit by that before because I have Monica. The issue with this is the easy ones to get were limited to 4 slots or less, but there were others that gave 7 and 8 slot protections which were extremely limited and untradeable. They also released the final tier of gear in the class weapons and units, which meant even the more casual players could make this high-powered gear and not die in one hit. How this used to happen was we would put the Guardian Soul, Absolute Glare, Veterans Resolve 5, and Crack 5 into a random unit, then use the transfer system to add the Mana Reverie, Aether Factor, and another capsule to it. JP players had the option for Mark capsules, but we didn't get them until the pre-NGS update, so most used Grand Stat capsules instead. And if you're asking where the gamer acronym came from, it's because it was translated to Aether Factor with an E on the translation patch, and Veterans Resolve was called Returner, so Guardian Soul, Absolute Glare, Mana Reverie, Aether Factor, Returner, or Gamer. For the most part, this doesn't look too bad, right? Well, if you look, none of the augments have more than a 50% chance of success, other than Photon or Glare. One more thing to note, this chart includes the 15% boost we get from the current PSO2 days, meaning you normally have a 10% chance to get Guardian Soul or Glare Catalyst from this route. This is part of the reason you'd use the 4-slot insurance, assuming you had the Maceta or the AC badges for it. If not, good luck! Of course, this doesn't take into account weapons, because those were cake both because of augment factors and knowing how to upslot. Anyway, now that the history lesson is over, we can still do the same path, right? Nope. The Mana Rev and Aether Factor capsules needed Mission Pass badges, which is something you can get from the base Mission Pass or from items you didn't want from said Mission Pass. Alas, the base Mission Pass is no more, so you can't get those items if you're a new player. Can't get the items from old players either, since both were untradeable and unsellable. But there's something that you could do that could get you pretty close. Not exactly the same, but still pretty close. With this, though, we'll need to move to the JP Affixing Assistant, since the global side didn't get updated for the previously mentioned last-second updates. As you can see, we can still affix most of it, like Aether Factor, Guardian Soul, Absolute Glare, Crack, Veterans Resolve, and Mark, but we're missing Mana Reverie. We'll have to make up for that with a Grand Stat capsule, which does affect the final numbers. I'll have the link to this in the description in case you'd rather look at this mess on your own, but I'll give the global names as we go through it, since they're slightly different. Also, some of these steps could be skipped based on how much Maceta you have, or how lucky you were in places like Cradle of Darkness. If this is your first attempt at augmenting, I am so sorry. Anyway, anytime you see items in the main recipe that have 5 slots, you can use items that have your augment in between 5 and 8 slots. You can't use items with less than 5, as you can only go down, not up. One final tip is to use solid barriers as much as possible, especially for the last step, since you get a bonus for using the same item, and solid barriers are the most common units to drop in Episode 6 content, which makes it easy to find ones with 5 slots or more. As a side note, this will require transfer passes, which aren't too hard to get a hold of. It just takes some level grinding, as you need to turn in Class X cubes for it. You can also find Class X cubes at Sharona if you find yourself short. Getting into the nitty gritty, let's start with what we want to finish with. This unit will have Guardian Soul, Absolute Glare, Aether Factor, Veterans Resolve, Crack, Mark, Grand Stat, and the SGA or SSA slot. The last are abbreviations for Global's S-Grade Augment or Super Special Ability on the Japanese translation patch. These slots will be S6, 7, or 8 for back, arms, and legs respectively. Any 13-star unit supports SGA slots, so this would work whether you use Claws or one of the more common sets like Navar or Sharp. Whatever your final unit is will be the main fodder in this first box. In order to do the transfer shown, you'll want an SGA and 7 other augments on your unit. These show here as junk, as it doesn't matter what you put into it. You could have a unit with nothing but first level might, precision, casting, stamina, spirit, deafness, and toughness, since the only thing that matters is getting that upslotted to 8 slots. Onto this, you're going to transfer Guardian Soul, Absolute Glare, Aether Factor, Veterans Resolve, Crack, and Grand Stat, finishing by using your Mark capsule. Sliding to the right a little shows you how you made that unit by transferring Guardian Soul, Absolute Glare, Aether Factor, Veteran's Resolve, and Crack, and using the Grand Stat capsule. Shifting into the meat of this video is how you make that last unit. The unit listed under main fodder is easy. Run to Nanon on the second floor, look at the Rising Weapon Badge 5 shop, and grab a solid barrier with Factor Receptor on it. The next part's a bit more fun, as we'll need to make this. Soul Receptor can be found from Nanon as well, but you'll either need to farm, buy, or make the 2 Glare Catalyst pieces. In order to make fodder 3, you'll need to make a unit with Soul Catalyst and Soul of Darkness, and combine that with the 2 Glare Catalysts previously mentioned, and 2 Photon or Glare units. These should be easy to find on the market, but if you need to make those, you smash together a Mitra, Varuna, Shiva, and Origin Glare together. If you're looking into other options, you might see you could transfer these a little easier with the Divine Augments. Alas, you'd be running into a dead end since units don't have Divine Order or will drop with them on it. Moving on to fodder 4 and 5 leads to more excitement. You'll need 2 units with Veteran's Resolve and Glare Catalyst on them. Glare Catalyst doesn't normally transfer, so you would normally do that by putting 2 units with Veteran's Resolve 5 and units with X-Core, Barouge, Fodrus, and either Angel or Dominus Glare. Depending on either how much Meseta or Star Gems you have, you could either get an item with Catalyst Receptor on it, or craft it with a capsule from the Star Gem support scratch. I've also broken down the Veteran's Resolve / Returner chain, but stop wherever you need to based on materials and market costs. After putting those 6 items together, we're a third of the way done with our unit. I'm going to skip fodder 2 and 4 since they're basically the same as we've done before, with fodder 4 just being cracked, leaving fodder 3 and 5. Fodder 3 is the easier of the two, since we need 2 units with Aether Soul and another set of Glare units. You can either buy or make the Aether Soul units, with the latter taking 2 choices between Full Vegas, Eastern, or S-Card Souls. You will need the Catalyst Receptor this time for transferring the Glare Catalyst over with these units, though. Factor Catalyst should be easy to find on the market, but otherwise it's Yamato, Mother, and Deus factors put together. Combine those together, and we move on to fodder 5. This seems a little more daunting, but it's not too bad. Grabbing another Catalyst Receptor from the market and Reverie Receptor from Nanon, getting 2 Photon Glare units, and making another Glare Cat Crack unit leaves us with the hardest part. In order to make Mana Reverie, we need 4 Reverie Catalysts and an Omega Memoria. Put one of the cracks onto the unit with RevCat, and we combine them all together. While this does seem daunting at first, it's not terrible once it's broken down like this. It's still hard since you need quite a number of materials, along with some luck in the SG scratch for the Mark capsules. I did mention that this is slightly less than what would normally be listed, but it's not by much. You still have the same amount of defense, dexterity, and HP, but while the old way would give you plus 300 points to all damage and an additional 27 photon power per unit, this gives you 310 points to whatever stat you use, 250 points of the other attack stats, and 28 photon power per unit. If you use one of each Might, Precision, and Casting, it would give you a total of 810 attack points versus 900 attack points. If you prefer sticking to one stat, you'd get up to 930 attack points of the primary stat and 750 of the other stats. If you're looking for every point of damage you possibly can, it's leaving you a hair short, but at the same time, we're talking about 90 out of at least 5,000 points, which to me is in close enough territory. This also assumes you're using Mark Anger, but Mark Courage and Mark Joy are also options which trade 10 all attack for 5 photon power or 10 HP respectively. If you're looking for more cost-effective options, the first thing I'd recommend replacing is Veteran's Resolve with Doombreak 3, which is what I went with on my units, which only affects your defense. You could also use Graceful instead of Grand Stat, which cuts 10 attack and 20 HP per unit. Losing the Mark capsule is a bit trickier, but if you happen to be an old player that didn't get enough Mission Pass items for the full set, but still have a few for a couple of capsules, you could use Mana Reverie instead. Unfortunately, there's not really many options for new players though. Hopefully this helps you out for those times you want to try Hatred of Darkness with your friends, or take on Solo Sodom. If it did, I'd appreciate a like on the video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you want to check out my other content as it comes out, clicking on the subscribe button will let you know. And I also stream on Twitch every Friday night, where I'll try to answer your questions, or at least point you in the right direction if I can. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good one.